Episode 23, 2010.
2010, start of a new decade and the start of my adult life. I was 21, going on 22, and starting to grow up a little bit. When StarCraft 2 came out, I was blindsided because I wasn't paying attention to game news and I had a lot going on in my life at that point. So when all of a sudden I saw coming soon in the EB games down the road from me, I got super stoked. Now, one of the big problems with getting this game and really wanting to get a collector's edition is I was a little broke boy and I did not have the money to purchase this. Luckily, one of my friends came to the rescue and got me the limited edition that came with a shirt. Currently, this friend is going by the moniker of Sir Hammy, but that may change. So if it does, I'll put an annotation above. And this game obviously follows up from the events of StarCraft's expansion pack Brood Wars, where Jim Raynor, the leader of Raynor's Raiders, is the drunk, sad person whose love interest has turned into a Zerg super queen, and whose cause he was fighting alongside turned out to be a corrupt piece of shit. And him kind of coming to terms with that and slowly leading his legion to fight against the corrupt Emperor Mengsk and his former love, Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades. Seeing one of my most beloved franchises go 3D and get into some higher fidelity graphics and kind of be brought into the new generation was amazing. The beginning of my experience with StarCraft 2 was mixed because although the game was great, the graphics was great, the first big problem is you needed an internet connection, even if you bought a physical copy of the game, to be able to play it. This was during the time when this was only just starting to become regular. Online-only games were pretty rare, and they were a pain in the ass because the internet wasn't quite as cheap and quite as accessible as it is now. And the other bit that pissed me off was, unlike StarCraft, the original, where you had a campaign for the humans, a campaign for the Zerg, a campaign for the Protoss, and then an expansion pack where you got another campaign for the humans, another campaign for the Protoss, another campaign for the Zerg. In this, every race's specific campaign was an expansion pack. And, you know, when they first came out, a $60 expansion pack. And that really gave me the shits. Now, unfortunately, what this was the beginning of, which I didn't know until the next Blizzard game that's on the list, is this was actually just the beginning of Blizzard's greed and their downfall from the epic studio they once were into a corporate-led, executive, microtransaction happy bunch of scum. But hey, millions of people have done videos on that. Let's move on. So my experience with this game, outside of the internet issues, outside of the expansion pack price issues, it was great. The storytelling was epic. The few little kind of subtle choices which didn't really impact the story, they more impacted your gameplay a little bit, was an interesting little tidbit. And the fact that, unlike StarCraft, where with the Terran campaign you have 10 missions, and the Protoss have 10, and the Zerg have 10, there were a lot more missions just in the Terran campaign. Technically, I suppose you can say there was also a mini Protoss campaign in the game, as Zeratul gives you kind of like a memory chip which replays his memories of a little bit of the story, which was interesting concept and kind of fun. Alright, we're stretching on time, so I'm going to get started into the scoring. By the way, if you guys are interested in me doing more in-depth videos on these games, like, share, subscribe, get my numbers up and let me know. Alright, starting with fun factor. Just purely based on gameplay, I'm going to give it a 9. Unlike the original StarCraft when it first came out, I could play this without cheats because 1, I was older, and 2, the wait time wasn't quite as unbearable, and there was a skill slider that if the enemy was a little bit too hard and you weren't able to beat it, you could drop the difficulty down. So it was great fun to play. Graphics, 10 out of 10. When this game came out, I couldn't believe you could have a strategy game with this detailed amount of graphics. that actually ran smoothly. Now, I'd previously had an experience with Warcraft 3, which was similar, and then pushing the envelope even further was great. Replayability. I'm going to score this a 7, because although there's technically 2 different ways you can play the campaign with all the choices in it, it's still the same campaign most of the way through. And it really does rely on you having the 2 expansion packs for the Protoss and Zerg campaign, as well as the Nova missions, in order to expand the length of replayability. And this review is based on Wings of Liberty, which is basically just the Terran campaign and not the entirety of the game. All right, now it's time for the honorable mentions of 2010, starting with Aliens vs. Predator 2010, Fable 3, and Halo Reach. And that does it for this episode. I am catching up to my age. I've only got until 2025 to complete so far, so another 15? Should be good. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for coming along with me on this journey, and hope to catch you in the next video. And until then, bye-bye!